Time now for our second look at the day's papers, and for that, Solange Mougin is here to take us through what is grabbing the headlines. Solange, you're starting us off with Tunisia's parliamentary election on Sunday.
Yeah, while the results are not expected until the end of the week, one thing is certain. We do know that they will only illustrate a sliver of what Tunisians think. Only 11%, La Presse tells us, of Tunisians turned out to Sunday's second round of its parliamentary elections, and that's actually about the same amount that turned out for the first round. It is an expression, according to the Tunisian paper, of a weariness and a resignation among the population. Now, business news, it says that Tunisians are too bogged down by daily life troubles, food shortages, medicine shortages, the economic crisis, to worry about, quote, the unilateral and confused political process. And that the abstention should be taken, they say, as a sign to President Kais Saied that the Tunisian people are against his consolidation of power and want no part in legitimizing it.
Moving on now, Solange, a tax scandal is making waves in the United Kingdom. How is the press reacting to Rishi Sunak having fired the Conservative Party chairman?
Yeah, in a play on words with his name, Metro tells us that Nadim Zahari has been sacked, but he's not sorry at all. Noting that the Tory party chair has not apologized for the serious breach of ministerial rules, and that he's actually lashing out at the press over not disclosing his tax affairs. Now, what took you so long is the headline today of The Independent, noting that they broke the story some 6 months ago, and then it's been over a week since it emerged that the MP paid fines over tax errors and was repeatedly dishonest about them and about this saga. It's a delay, the paper explains, that's considerably weakened the Rishi Sunak's premiership, as we see in Dave Brown's cartoon over the weekend. The scandal has been a reminder, quote, that death comes for all, or quote, as if we're following with what this inspiration of a Velázquez painting illustrates, with the cartoonist having both the Prime Minister and the MP staring at a potentially dying Tory party.
Changing gears entirely now then, Solange, we're going to get a look at some sports news from down under. That's Novak Djokovic winning the Australian Open.
Yeah, and the Serbian papers, well, they're jumping for joy about it. As we see in Blick, it writes on its front page, Djoko has God's racket. It also, though, mentions that his father was not in the stands over the fact that a video had emerged of him holding a Russian flag with Putin's face on it. Now, in addition to this Putin controversy, the other big elephant in the room was Djoko's expulsion from the tournament last year over his COVID views. And this was, as Alo puts it, Serbia's revenge, referring here again to his hero-like status in his home country. Now, as for the Australian press, the Sydney Morning Herald covers how Djoko said that considering these circumstances, this was the biggest victory of his life. Now, the Globe and Mail, the Canadian paper, takes a more critical view. It writes that this is proof that the equation, time plus success, equals a 100% successful PR strategy, with Djoko settling his scores, they say, whether the tennis world likes it or not.
All right, Solange, the Washington Post has a couple of cartoons to illustrate the two issues making headlines in the United States.
Yeah, the Post cartoon by Michael de Adder, Two Americas, tackles police brutality and racism. Also in regard to the recent death of Tyree Nichols. While the officers in that case were black, this weekend's cartoons describes a reality that being pulled over as a white person does not necessarily create the same degree of fear or risk that it does for people of color. Now, the second Post cartoon, it tackles another issue, that of the new frontier in the anti-abortion fight in the U.S., or the use of abortion pills. Having or using them is a criminal offense in multiple states that have banned abortion, and in the past week, more lawsuits have launched to test if it is legal to restrict or regulate medicine approved by on a federal level. So again, here we had police looking at a woman saying, "Got any abortion pills?"
All right, Solange, we'll change gears again and take a look at some science news. There's been an important discovery in regard to antibiotics.
Yeah, over 1.2 million people die every year from antibiotic-resistant bacteria. But there may soon be a new weapon in the antibiotic war in our toolkits, writes The Observer. It explains that scientists have discovered a plant toxin called albacidin that bacteria cannot, at least in labs, create a resistance to, which means it could be key and an ever-important ingredient in a new generation of antibiotics.
Finally, Solange, you found an article about the French.
Yeah, as France is gearing up for a second day of massive strikes tomorrow over pension reforms, the New York Times is asking, with the very clickable title, are French people just lazy? The answer, according to this opinion writer, is a bit of yes and a bit of no. It explains that statistically, it is a startling no, that French productivity is higher than the G7 and European average. But this is the potential yes. If we go into, quote, cultural inflection points, the op-ed writer argues that there can be a laissez-faire or a more relaxed view of the world and of work, or that an alternate view of how to spend, quote, the wealth of our leisure time is a part of the French attitude that essentially, and here I'm taking a bit of license, that leisure time is important. And with the Times concluding that maybe it's time to look at the cliche of French laziness, or not laziness rather, and embrace it for all its joie de vivre qualities.
Indeed, something that we could certainly all learn from. Solange Moujon, thank you very much.